Reba found herself acting as the unofficial studio manager. She handled the books, kept Brock from inspecting the client's instruments, and provided the common sense filter for Barbara Jean's more eccentric visions. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a partner. Chapter 21. The Real Question. Despite the year of dating and the key to the studio, there was still an elephant, or perhaps a llama, in the room. Ted knew it. Reba knew it. "So, Ted," Brock said one evening while they were sitting on the back porch, sharing a rare moment of quiet. "The key was a nice touch. The studio is a solid investment. But what's the long-term plan for the wiring?" Ted looked at Brock. He knew wiring was Brock speak for commitment. "I have a ring, Brock," Ted admitted quietly. Brock stopped rocking his chair. He looked at the sunset, his expression uncharacteristically solemn. "She's my best friend, Ted. Even when I was a terrible husband, she was the person who kept my world together. You hurt her, and I don't care if your 401k is made of gold. I'll find you." "I know," Ted said, "but I have a problem. I don't know how to ask her without it becoming a heart event. I want it to be about her, not the sage, not the sequins, not the fire extinguishers." "You ask the kids first," Brock said, surprisingly. "It's a respect thing, and then you just find the quiet." Ted took the advice. He sat down with Cheyenne, Van, and Jake. "If you marry my mom," Jake said, looking up from his video game, "does that mean I get a discount at the studio? And can I call you Step Ted?" "I'd prefer just Ted, Jake," Ted laughed. "I think it's beautiful," Cheyenne sobbed, already looking at wedding dresses on her phone. "We can have a destination wedding, somewhere with mountains." "No, wait. Mom hates mountains. Somewhere with lattes." "I'll be the best man," Van shouted. "I'll give a speech that will make everyone cry. I'll talk about protein and love and the time I went to Florida for orange juice." "Guys," Ted said, holding up a hand, "the quiet part is the most important. Keep it a secret." The secret lasted exactly 4 minutes before Barbara Jean was informed. Chapter 22. The Heart Wedding, Part 1. The proposal happened on a Tuesday. Ted didn't take her to a fancy restaurant. He didn't hire a skywriter. He simply waited until everyone had finally left the studio. He turned off the main lights, leaving only the soft glow of the recording booth. He played a recording, the full, finished version of The Survivor's Waltz. This time, it had lyrics. Simple, honest words about a woman who had spent her life being everyone else's hero and a man who just wanted to be her home. "Reba," he said, kneeling on the frayed studio carpet, "I'm not a poet, and I'm definitely not a Canadian bicycle salesman, but I'm a man who loves you. Will you marry me?" Reba didn't say yes immediately. She cried, she laughed, she made a joke about his bird legs, and then she said yes. Naturally, the wedding planning was the true final boss of their relationship. "Theme!" Barbara Jean screamed, bursting into the kitchen with a binder the size of a phone book. "We need a theme. I'm thinking a Southern Gothic revival with a hint of Lama chic." "No," Reba said. "Backyard, small, barbecue." "Brock is already building a gazebo," Cheyenne shouted. "He says the current porch isn't vow compliance." "I've ordered the doves," Van added. "Well, they're pigeons from a guy at the gym, but if you squint, they're very romantic." "I am a survivor," Reba muttered to herself as she watched her family descend into a wedding-fueled madness. "I can survive a wedding. I can survive a wedding." The wedding was held on a humid Saturday in June. The gazebo Brock built was, according to his own inspection, hurricane-proof. Senior citizens were weeping. The cake had a small, plastic llama topper that Barbara Jean had insisted on. But when Reba walked down the aisle, a path cleared through the chaotic remains of her past. She didn't see the pigeons or the sequined dresses. She saw Ted. Brock gave her away, his eyes misty as he whispered, "Don't forget to check the wiring, Reba." The vows were short. The music was The Survivor's Waltz, played by a group of musicians who had become their chosen family. "I, Reba Hart," she said, her voice clear and strong, "take you, Ted, to be my partner in music, in chaos, and in everything that comes after. As they kissed, a small fire extinguisher went off in the background. Brock had noticed a suspicious spark on a string light, and a pigeon flew into Van's hair. Reba laughed. She didn't mind. The chaos was part of the harmony. Chapter 23. The Business of Bliss. Marriage, as it turned out, didn't mean the end of the loony bin. If anything, it meant the loony bin now had a co-manager. Running the shelter studio was a labor of love, but the labor part was becoming increasingly literal. Ted was in high demand after the cult success of the Harmonious Hens album, and Reba found herself juggling schedules for local metal bands, aspiring country stars, and the occasional podcast about competitive quilting. I need a system, Reba sighed one Monday morning, staring at a calendar that looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. I have a system, Barbara Jean chirped, appearing in the studio doorway with a crystal bowl filled with what appeared to be organic birdseed. It's called acoustic alignment. We schedule the angry bands during the waning moon and the happy bands during the rising sun. Barbara Jean, I'm scheduling a group called Death Rattle at 2 p.m. There is no moon involved, only earplugs. Oh, Reba, your chakras are so clogged. Ted, I've brought the bowl. Let's do a resonance check. Ted, emerging from the sound booth with a pair of headphones around his neck, caught Reba's eye. He'd learned that the best way to deal with Barbara Jean was to treat her like a difficult chord. You just had to find the right resolution. The resonance is perfect, B.J., Ted said, steering her toward the lounge. But Reba's right. We need a digital assistant, someone who knows technology and has zero fear of metalheads. I'm your man, Van shouted, bursting in from the hallway. He was wearing a headband and carrying a clipboard. I've been reading about efficiency models. Step 1. We replace the coffee with high-protein kelp shakes. Step 2. We install a treadmill at the soundboard so Ted can stay visually impactful while he mixes. Step 3. I fire the digital assistant, Reba said, though she couldn't help but smile. Chapter 24. Lama Namaste. While Ted and Reba were stabilizing the studio, Cheyenne and Van had found a new calling. It's the future, Mom, Cheyenne explained during Sunday dinner, her eyes bright with entrepreneurial fervor. Yoga is great. Lamas are great. Put them together and you have Lama Namaste. You're going to do yoga with the lamas from Silas's ranch? Reba asked, a sense of impending doom rising in her chest. Silas won't even talk to us, Van admitted. So we bought our own. Meet Lorenzo and Fabio. He pointed to the backyard. 2 llamas, one white and fluffy, the other brown and grumpy, were currently chewing on Reba's prized begonias. They're trained, Cheyenne insisted. They walk through the class and provide grounding energy. Van is the lead instructor. He's calling himself the Llama Whisperer of Wellness. The first class was held on Saturday afternoon. About 20 local women showed up, lured by the promise of exotic tranquility. Reba watched from the porch, a fire extinguisher nearby, just in case Brock was watching. It started well. Van was at the front, looking surprisingly serene in yoga pants. Lorenzo and Fabio wandered through the mats, occasionally sniffing a student's hair. Feel the earth, Van intoned, his voice dropping to a soothing baritone. Be the llama, stable, stoic, patient. Then, Fabio decided he was bored. He walked over to a woman in a very expensive designer yoga outfit and began nibbling on her ponytail. Oh, he's bonding with you, Cheyenne squealed. The woman didn't feel the bond. She screamed. The scream startled Lorenzo, who bolted, knocking over a row of students like a fuzzy white bowling ball. Fabio, sensing a challenge, began a high-frequency braying that sounded like a car alarm being strangled. Chaos, the faithful companion of the Hart family, had arrived for the class. Students were scrambling for their bags. Van was trying to whisper to Fabio, who responded by spitting a massive green glob directly onto Van's headband. Brock arrived with a roll of caution tape and a megaphone. Clear the area. We have an uncontrolled biological event, Brock shouted. Reba walked into the middle of the yard, grabbed the llama's lead ropes, and led them back to their makeshift pen. She turned to the fleeing students. Refunds are at the door, and free donuts at the studio tomorrow. She looked at Van, who was wiping llama spit from his face, and Cheyenne, who was crying into a yoga mat. Next time, Reba said gently, try kittens. They're much less likely to bowl over the customers. Chapter 25. The Nashville Temptation.